General Hospital Spoilers tease that one of the most paradoxical new traits emerging in Sonny is insecurity, a feeling he has long buried beneath the mask of a cold, hard, and always in control mob boss. However, as the idea of stepping away from the mob begins to seep into his thoughts, it is no longer a personal decision, it marks the beginning of a dangerous chain of events. What seems like a peaceful retirement plan is actually triggering a cascade of uncontrollable reactions, not only from external enemies but also from within the very power network he spent a lifetime building. Sonny used to live by the ruthless rules of the underworld: never retreat, never hesitate, and never show weakness. But now, his shifting attitude, evolving strategies, and even the look in his eyes are being noticed, especially by those quietly waiting for the right moment to seize his throne. As Sonny starts to distance himself from underground meetings, declines major operations, or hands over decision-making to others, it's no longer seen as a strategic transition of power, it's interpreted as a sign of decline. Those who once feared him now whisper, scrutinize, and perhaps even scheme to eliminate him permanently. Even Sonny's closest allies are being drawn into this spiral of suspicion. Jason, once his most loyal right-hand man, is now someone Sonny eyes with caution. Carly grows more distant, and Nina no longer offers emotional refuge after countless betrayals. These fractures in his most intimate relationships are leaving Sonny adrift at the most critical time. He's trying to do the right thing, letting go of a life soaked in blood and darkness in search of peace, but the cost seems increasingly unbearable. Worse still, his well-intentioned changes may become his fatal flaw. In the past, a furious Sonny could shake all of Port Charles with a single nod. Now, a hesitant Sonny becomes easy prey, inviting resistance, rebellion, even betrayal. And if any disruption occurs during this fragile period, an unexpected assassination, a federal investigation, or a betrayal from within, it could catalyze a chaotic series of events Sonny can no longer control. Thus, the psychological, strategic, and personal shifts Sonny is undergoing are not signs of maturity, as many might believe, but in his world, clear signals of weakness. And the ruthless always know how to exploit such moments to destroy their rivals. If Sonny continues to pursue retirement without ensuring a stable transfer of power, without clearly identifying who will command his network in his absence, then not only he, but his entire empire, will collapse. Rival factions will rise. Former allies will splinter. And worst of all, Sonny may not have the strength to return. In a world where respect is built on blood and loyalty upheld by fear, even a temporary absence is a declaration: the old order is over. And in a cruel twist of fate, just as Sonny attempts to escape the whirlpool of violence, an even more dangerous storm is forming, quietly, relentlessly, and with madness. A betrayal from within? A daylight ambush? A fake death to mask his retreat? All are possible, and all may be the price Sonny pays if he lets his guard down for even a moment. Because in the underworld he once ruled, no one ever truly retires. A man like Sonny, if not killed by a bullet, will be destroyed by the very things he once believed in: family, change, and compassion. Sonny now stands between two paths. Step away from the shadows with honor, or be dragged back in through total ruin. And if he hesitates, a new, crazy story of rebellion, hatred, and purging will explode at the heart of Port Charles, not while he's in power, but at the exact moment he turns his back on it. At that point, the question won't be whether Sonny can live peacefully after leaving the mob, but whether he'll live to see that day at all. Sonny is finally beginning to see more clearly the pieces moving around his life, and the most shocking revelation comes from someone he once considered an ally: Drew. While Sonny has been struggling to balance his violent past and a desire for a more peaceful future, behind the scenes, the tides have been rising. When Sonny starts connecting recent oddities, from leaked information, conveniently timed legal investigations, to mounting internal family tensions, a single name begins to emerge at the center of it all: Drew. Drew has long been quietly building his own sphere of influence outside the underworld, not with guns, but through manipulation, political alliances, and psychological tactics. He doesn't strike directly, like Sonny is used to. Instead, he pulls strings from afar, crafting scenarios where the victim can't trace the source. And that's exactly what infuriates Sonny to the point of madness. In Sonny's world, betrayal is unforgivable, but betrayal disguised in moral righteousness, as Drew's appears to be, is even more dangerous than any bullet. Sonny begins to see that seemingly disconnected events, Carly being dragged into the SEC investigation, the sudden distance between Jason and Nina, and the legal pressures he's been facing, are all marked by Drew's influence. Drew, who stays behind the curtain, playing the victim while secretly controlling the game. This realization sparks a transformation in Sonny, not as someone looking for a way out, but as a man ready to return to his cold-blooded roots if necessary. A key aspect of this shift is how Sonny starts reassessing the relationships around him. Most surprising is how he begins to interact differently with Nina. After a long period of distance and pain, Sonny starts viewing her from a new angle, not as a former lover who betrayed him, but as someone who can truly understand the complexity and depth of his current mindset. Nina, who once drove him to cut ties entirely, now becomes someone he needs to help make sense of the threats surrounding him. They begin talking more, no longer guarded, no longer cold. Their conversations become deeper, more strategic. Nina, with her knack for reading emotions and motives, starts offering Sonny insights he'd never considered. She analyzes Drew's manipulation tactics, how seemingly minor actions can steer an entire narrative. And in this process, Sonny begins to see a different side of Nina, not as the liar of the past, but as a sharp ally in his time of need. The shift in Sonny and Nina's relationship is not just reconciliation, it's a realliance. A new bond formed not from emotion, but from survival. And this stuns the Port Charles community, where no one expected Sonny to return to Nina, not for love, but for strategy. It rattles both Carly and Jason. Carly, once sure Nina had been cast out of Sonny's life forever, must now face the truth that her place in his heart was never absolute. Jason, once the core of Sonny's power, now faces the threat of being replaced by a woman who was once the enemy of his family. The situation is more dangerous than ever. As Sonny realizes Drew is the true enemy and begins to act to reclaim control of the game, Port Charles stands on the brink of a new era, where all alliances may be shattered. All secrets may be exposed, and every player who once thought they held power must face the wrath of a reborn Sonny, driven by rage and betrayal. And if that happens, the coming explosion won't just be a shootout or an arrest, it will be a total reshaping of the power structure, where old faces must learn to survive in a new age, the age of Sonny. No longer bound by morality or emotion, but with only one goal: destroy the one who dared put him on the defensive. Sonny and Nina, after all the heartbreak, betrayal, and pain that once made it seem impossible for them to even look each other in the eye again, have reunited, not in a simple romantic relationship, but in a calculated and furious strategic alliance. Their return wasn't marked by apologies or tearful reconciliations, but by a cold agreement: Drew is the common enemy, and he must be eliminated. To them, Drew is not just the manipulative force behind the recent chaos in Port Charles. He is the most dangerous figure precisely because he hides behind a mask of morality and goodwill, using trust as a weapon to inflict damage far deeper than any bullet or scheme. Sonny's decision to view Drew as the ultimate threat marks an irreversible turning point. Strategic adjustments begin quietly. Sonny no longer gives public commands, he starts dismantling Drew's network link by link through discreet and precise actions. Nina, with her skill in reading minds and understanding psychological motives, becomes Sonny's new eyes and ears in the business and legal circles, where Drew operates openly but deceptively. The two operate together with an unerringly smooth rhythm, as if all the past pain has now become fuel for a cold, calculated bloodlust. The takedown of Drew is not just about unmasking a rival, it's about dismantling every value he represents. Sonny doesn't want to kill Drew in a straightforward way. He wants to destroy his image, ruin his reputation, his relationships, his influence, and the trust people once placed in him. It's a takedown from within, merciless, slow, and with no way out. Nina plays the role of an insider, gaining access to critical information, while Sonny maneuvers the remnants of his own network to ensure that when Drew falls, he stays down for good. But as this plan unfolds, a deeper change is quietly taking place within Sonny. In the midst of the chaos, he suddenly feels tired. Not just from age, but from years of living in violence, threats, and darkness. Sonny realizes that what he truly longs for is not power or fear, but an ending, a peaceful, meaningful end with a worthy successor. And so, Sonny begins planning his retirement, quietly but deliberately, like a king preparing to abdicate after purging the last of the traitors. His decision sends shockwaves through the underworld. His loyalists feel abandoned. His enemies aren't sure if it's a trap. But the biggest shock comes when Sonny announces he will hand over his entire legacy, both his criminal empire and strategic assets, to the only two people he trusts, Michael and Jason. It's a seemingly contradictory choice. Michael once turned his back on Sonny, and Jason has recently been under suspicion. But in Sonny's world, forgiveness is always paired with strategy. He believes that to leave behind a lasting legacy, he must entrust it to those who have felt its pain, so they can choose to rebuild differently. Michael, once deeply wounded by his father's actions, is now tasked with inheriting the very power he once swore to avoid. And Jason, the soul of the organization, is handed back the position he's not even sure he still wants. And in that quiet moment, Sonny walks away, no farewell speech, no glory, just a new order, a new alliance between generations, and a warning. Anyone who dares to disrupt this balance will face a wrath even greater than anything Sonny has ever unleashed. Ultimately, Port Charles is shaken not just by Sonny and Nina's reunion, or Drew's fall, but by an undeniable truth. When a titan of power like Sonny chooses to end things, it's not a retreat, it's the beginning of a new era, one where brutality is inherited. Control is re-established, and the ghosts of the past are always ready to return whenever someone forgets the name of the man who built everything. In a shocking move, after a chain of bloody, treacherous, and redemptive events, Sonny and Nina make a decision that stuns all of Port Charles. They leave everything behind and move to Nixon Falls, the place that once marked a pivotal turning point in Sonny's life and the origin of his complex romance with Nina. This is not just a search for a fresh start, it is a clear full stop to Sonny's criminal arc, a sign that the once untouchable power player of General Hospital is stepping down for good. And that retreat triggers an earthquake in the entire Port Charles power structure, shaking both allies and enemies who once viewed Sonny as an unshakable pillar. Sonny's choice of Nixon Falls is no accident. It's the only place he's ever lived not as a mob boss, but as an ordinary man named Mike, a life without bullets, blood-stained handshakes, or betrayal. Just birdsong, peace, and a love that was simple but profound. It was there that Nina saw another side of Sonny, and also where she made the mistake of hiding his true identity. But now, they return with nothing left to hide, nothing left to prove, bringing with them all the scars, failures, and traumas of their past as a way to heal. Sonny's departure marks one of the biggest turning points in GH history, not by death or amnesia, but by a conscious act of letting go. And that, more than anything, makes it all the more shocking. No one expected that Sonny, the man who lived and thrived in the shadows of power for decades, could walk away from it all, hand in hand with the woman who once betrayed him, to settle in a quiet town where time itself seems to pause. And it is exactly this unbelievability that turns Nixon Falls into a new symbol, strangely calculated, wildly unexpected, yet deeply human. However, this ending is not just a personal choice. It carries a chain reaction of complex and dangerous consequences. Old enemies, never fully defeated, now rise again with no one to maintain the balance of power. Former subordinates scramble for influence with no leader to follow. Worst of all, new forces, unaware of Sonny's bloody past, may see his absence as an invitation to take Port Charles. Meanwhile, Jason and Michael, though chosen as successors, are still learning to control a world they never fully grasped. Carly remains unable to accept the truth, that Sonny, the axis of her life, has chosen another place, another person, another life. And in Nixon Falls, beneath the calm exterior, Sonny and Nina also face the ghosts they can't shake. Every morning brings a tug of war. Is this really the right choice? Will the darkness they left behind truly stay gone? Because deep down, they both know, the past never dies, it only sleeps, and one day, it may wake in another form. That makes life in Nixon Falls, no matter how peaceful, never truly safe. The whispers of guilt, the faces of enemies, the consequences unpaid, they remain shadows standing just behind them, ready to shatter any moment of calm. Sonny and Nina's departure may mark the end of an era, but it is also a warning. When the center of power disappears, chaos rises. And if Nixon Falls was once where Sonny forgot everything to become Mike, this time, it will be the place he is forced to remember everything, not to return, but to survive the echoes of the empire he built. Because at General Hospital, nothing ever truly ends. Every ending is the start of a new chaos, and this time, it begins in the most deceptively peaceful place of all, Nixon Falls. Although Nina left Port Charles with Sonny to begin a peaceful life in Nixon Falls, the unresolved ties back home quietly pull her back into the eye of the storm. The remnants of the past, especially her conflicted relationship with Willow, have never truly ended. Willow, still grappling with the aftermath of her treatment, carries deep emotional scars, many stemming from the betrayals and secrets Nina herself kept hidden. Despite her attempts to appear strong and maintain distance, Willow cannot completely sever the influence Nina once had on her, whether as a mother, an enemy, or an unresolved mystery. And it is in this uncertainty that Nina remains an inescapable part of the unfinished story of Port Charles. Recent events suggest that Willow may soon face significant decisions about her family, health, and trust. The inner turmoil she continues to battle, haunting dreams, an overwhelming sense of losing control over her life, slowly rises, like a call drawing Nina back. Despite leaving, Nina knows there is still unfinished business, responsibilities yet to be fulfilled. New calculations are beginning to form in her mind. Can she return to Port Charles without causing more turmoil? Can she heal old wounds without reopening new confrontations? And if redemption is possible, would someone like Willow be willing to forgive? But as Nina considers whether to return or continue her new life with Sonny, another seismic shift is quietly unfolding. Sonny's retirement has created a power vacuum, causing the balance of Port Charles to falter. With Sonny no longer acting as the gatekeeper between the criminal world and legitimate life, everything is slipping off course. Old enemies are rising. New forces are emerging, and relationships once held together by respect, or fear of Sonny, are now fracturing uncontrollably. The new eruption of conflict doesn't come from a gunshot, but from the absence of someone everyone once thought was irreplaceable. In this context, Nina's return, if it happens, won't simply be about personal emotions with Willow or a desire to amend past wrongs. It will become a crucial knot in the chain reaction Port Charles is now enduring. Because Nina, with all her knowledge of the power networks, Jason, Carly, Drew, and even Michael, holds secrets that could change the entire landscape. She could be the bridge that helps Willow heal, or the spark that causes the remaining forces to implode. And if the story is truly pushing her back to the city, her return will certainly not be quiet. The madness is becoming ever more evident. Nina, once shunned and despised, may now return as an essential force, a missing piece that must be put back in place to keep the Port Charles machine running. In a world where every action echoes, where every silence holds the threat of a storm, Nina's return won't just be a personal journey. It could be the opening shot for a new chapter, where love, hate, power, and redemption collide so violently that no one can remain neutral. And in the end, the question won't be whether Nina returns, but rather, if she returns, now that Sonny has stepped away. Who will dare face her? Who will rise to accept the consequences of what was once hidden? And will the new madness Port Charles is about to face, starting from a woman who seemed to have disappeared, be the beginning of a total reshaping of the old order? Because in the world of General Hospital, no one ever truly leaves. Everything is just a temporary retreat, until they return, stronger, more dangerous, and more crucial than ever.